and welcome to City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. And as you can see, we're not in the studio as we usually are, but we're doing another on-location segment for our viewers. And Mike, you've been in office now for a couple of years, and a lot of changes, a lot of things happening in the city, and we're going to be talking about that during the show. There's some internal changes here within City Hall. Maybe you can bring us up to date with that.
Sure, I do just want to touch on the improvements we've made electronically. We now have, for the first time over this past year, people are able to pay online if they have to pull permits or pay bills or anything they need from the city. So online payments, credit card payments are now, fully up and running. Also, I just want to mention, since we're standing across the street, that we've got some activity on this block. We've got a new variety store in the corner, just opened. And there's been a lot of talk over the past several months about A&B Burgers, who are working hard to get open before Halloween. They're very, very hopeful that they'll be open for downtown trick or treat, which is also in just a couple of weeks.
That's right. That's right. And maybe they'll institute a mayor burger or something over there, a special, huh?
We'll
so
see.
City Hall workers can get over there. All right. So anything else new that you want to tell us about some of the systems in City Hall?
Well, yes, we also, we had a group of volunteers spend several months doing great work on taking our website and improving it and upgrading it, redesigning it. So that launched a few months ago, and I find that it's much more navigable and easy to find what you need. And when people need information about something going on in their neighborhood, something going on with a project, going to the city website is a great first step. If people have access, it's www.beverlyma.gov, MA for Massachusetts, GOV for government. So beverlyma.gov.
Right. Now, there are a lot of things, as we said, have been going on around the city, and I think I'd like to talk about the removal of the designated port area and what impact that has on the city. So I think it would be nice if we went down to the waterfront and continue our talk. So join us now. We're going to be leaving and heading down to the waterfront. We'll be back in a second.
Sounds good.
Well, and here we are at the waterfront. A little bit of a windy day today.
We didn't really teleport. We drove down.
So, Mike, this area had been designated a designated port area by the state, which is a state designation, and that kind of handcuffed the city for what certain development things that could be done here, and we took that off. So, tell us what that hampered us from doing, and what does it allow us to do now?
So for 40 odd years, there was a state statute in place that designated this part of our waterfront as a designated port area, meaning that most development couldn't happen down here. Anything that would happen here would have to involve that marine industrial kind of traditional economy. And that really had gone from this area prior to that time.
Right.
And it really, is not coming back. So we were able to convince the state by applying last year, and it took less than a year. The state was great to work with, and we convinced them that these parcels of land aren't going to operate that way in the future, that we need to have the ability to redevelop in a way that the community needs and wants. So in partnership with that, at the same time as that application was ongoing, we started a rezoning process, and we have successfully rezoned our waterfront area so that now our goal is to add uses. Everything that goes on down here already will continue, will be protected, particularly the commercial fishermen, the lobstermen. All these uses will be protected. We want to add retail and residential to this area.
And I know that right in back of us here, and I'm sure we'll show a picture of it, is the old McDonald's building. And I think the city has an RFP out for that. Tell us about that.
Yes, I mean, McDonald's was our waterfront dining option for decades. It was fine dining with the Happy Meals looking out on the harbor, but it's been gone for a while. The city owns this parcel. It's just about an acre. We've put it out to bid. As you remember, it was put out to bid a couple of times by the prior administration in hopes of bringing a restaurant to the waterfront, and it got hung up in litigation, and I think that the existence of the designated port area made it difficult. So that being gone, improves our chances. So it's out to bid. It's a complicated bid and a complicated site because the city owns it and can't sell it. We own it. Part of the money that we used to buy it nearly 20 years ago was state grant money for public access and enjoyment. So we are not selling the land, but whoever wins this bid will build something on the land. They'll own the building, we'll own the land. So there'll be a ground lease, which is not uncommon in highly advantageous areas like a waterfront. But we've got real interest, significant interest in the parcel, and we hope that by late fall or early winter we'll be able to award to somebody, and we'll see a development here on the city's parcel that will include a restaurant, may include some residential, and definitely on the first floor will include some public access and opportunities for public enjoyment.
And we're right here, right in front of us is the Salem-Beverly Bridge, and right at the base of the bridge is the new harbor master building, which is actually the old harbor. Tell us how that happened, Mike.
Well, they used to call it the Brown Building, but it's a different color siding now. But it was over here, and it got moved, and our Department of Public Services has been hard at work bringing it back, and so it's now here for the public's enjoyment, and it's the harbor master's offices will go back in there. They're currently in the McDonald's building, and it'll be a resource for our waterfront. I mean, the great thing is between our commercial dock and our recreational dock and our pier, and now this new landing, dock area, we've got a lot of public assets right here.
Right.
When you look this way, it's private property, but this is part of what's been rezoned as well. And it's very much our hope that there'll be some redevelopment along this stretch to bring more retail and residential opportunities in addition to what we're doing on the city property. And then the other part of that is with the state law requiring waterfront access, at the point that these redevelopments are done, there'll be greater public access, and the goal is for a walkway the whole length of our waterfront.
Yeah, which will be very
for people
nice.
to enjoy.
That'll be great.
So people want to come down to the waterfront.
Sure.
They want to have the chance to sit out and have an ice cream or a box of fried clams or maybe some finer dining, and all of that can take place down here.
Or watch the lobster boats.
Everybody wants to come to the waterfront to see the boats.
Yeah.
And to see the fishing activity, and we have fishing off of our public pier, and we have the commercial lobstermen coming in and out daily, and it's a great thing.
Yep. And of course, this is just one part of the whole major downtown redevelopment effort. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to head down over towards Rantoul and Cabot Street and see what's going on there. Okay. All right. So join us. We'll be right back in a moment. Well, and here we are at the base of the Salem-Beverly Bridge at the intersection of Cabot and Rantoul. And a lot of things are happening from here on into downtown, the Cabot revitalization. And let's talk specifically about the 1A project, which runs from here up Rantoul Street and then takes a left at Gloucester Crossing over to the Memorial Building. So tell us about that project, Mike.
Sure. This is a project that's been in the planning stages for years, and we've got it now to the point where the general contractor is actually here working. People have noticed there's been a lot of work going on in recent weeks. And so this fall, from now until, if and when winter shuts down the work, they are working on drainage under the street. So they're doing with different equipment, including some GPS equipment, they're verifying where the utilities are under the street so they can lay new drainage pipes as part of a whole new drainage system. And that work has also necessitated the trees coming down. Now, the whole length of Rantoul and that part of Cabot up to Memorial, there is a whole plan for plantings, and when the project's done, it's going to be fantastic. Unfortunately, a lot of the trees have had to come down just this week to make sure that we can get that work moving and keep moving. Comcast will be in soon to do their work. National Grid will have their folks in to do utility pole work up by Dairy Queen, that stretch between Bald Street and the train tracks up by Dairy Queen.
Right.
And there's a Middlesex Corp, that's the general contractor. They've got a crew working from Lower Rantoul that way, and soon they'll have a crew coming into work from the Dairy Queen back this way. So lots of activity. The actual digging up of the street and the repaving work and the rebuilding of the sidewalks and curbing will start in the spring. This is all prep work for that's taking place now.
And just so our viewers are clear and the citizens are clear, this is all on the state's nickel, right? The city is not paying for any of this.
The city paid for the engineering work, which is typically how state and federally funded projects locally do the engineering as a commitment, and then they bring in all the state and federal funding, which is our tax dollars, so it's good it's coming back here.
Absolutely. And now tell us a little bit about the revitalization of Cabot and some of the things that are happening, the exciting things that are happening at the other end there at Cabot Street.
Just last thing on Rantoul, the overall project, start to finish, is supposed to be done in fall of 2017.
Okay.
So it's about a 2-year project. People will see activity around their own neighborhoods or their own businesses at different times. So people won't have to live with it for 2 whole years at any given place. But the project itself in its totality is a 2-year work.
And as I understand from talking to Chief Willatcher, John Willatcher, the street will not be totally closed for long periods of time. The way they're going to stage it, people will still have access to the neighborhood and to the restaurants and to the residential areas.
We're committed to making sure that the businesses can thrive during this time and not suffer. And Kevin Hartooni, my chief of staff, is heading up a committee that is made up of residents, business owners, city officials, state officials, meeting regularly and working on that whole piece. So businesses, residents should be able to get in and out as needed. As much as possible, there'll be a lane of traffic at all times.
Right.
If there needs to be a detour in one direction or the other or both at a given point, those detours will be limited to 1 or 2 blocks, and it'll be made clear with signage that people can get to businesses and they can get in and out of their homes.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about Cabot a little bit. So you want to turn your attention there?
So if you look at the whole of downtown, and this also includes Rantoul, we've been working very hard to try to make sure that the city is a partner in and helpful in the process for people who want to invest their money in Beverly. So we put together a project review team of department heads who meet regularly. Anyone who wants to invest in Beverly, whether they want to open a business, whether they want to redevelop a property, whether they're small or large, it could be somebody who's starting their first business as a tenant. It could be somebody who's looking to rebuild a whole block. But that project review team is available to anybody who wants to come in at the front end and understand what the process needs to be. Now, nobody gets a guarantee of a yes answer at the end of the process, because some proposals might be good for the city and some might not. But everybody who's interested in investing in our community should get clear answers and a pathway and a timeline that's predictable. Right. So we're working hard at that.
Yeah. And speaking of those kinds of development projects, the McKay School, which was sold to a developer, and it's actually under construction right now. And maybe we can head on over there and take a look at what's happening over there and talk a little bit more about that.
I'd love to. Can we spend another minute on the downtown?
Sure, go ahead.
So we've got several projects underway in the downtown in permitting or construction. And I think together they represent about 300 residential units and about 20,000 square feet of rentable commercial space. And so those are real investments in our downtown, and that's important. We've had the revitalization is really happening with the designation of part of our downtown as a cultural district, with the Cabot Theater coming back online, with Atomic Cafe doubling in size and moving across the street, with a bookstore coming in next door to them sometime in the next month or so. Lots happening in the downtown, so it's exciting. We're connecting the Rantoul Street and the Depot area to the waterfront, to Cabot Street. It's all coming together in a way that people will benefit from.
Yeah, and I know the city's been working very hard with Beverly Main Streets and with the BAD designation, Beverly Arts District as well, and they've just put together a nice little map of all of the different businesses and artistic locations, and for people to look and see where all that is happening.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, very good. So we're going to head on over to the McKay School area, and we'll be back in a second. And we're here in front of the McCune School. And Mike, There's a lot of stuff that's been done in the city here in the last couple of years that just kind of improved the quality of life, a lot of the amenities for the citizens of Beverly. Tell us about some of those projects.
Sure. Well, I ran for mayor twice, and every person a lot of people I talked with during the course of those campaigns, they talked about two things. They talked about roads and sidewalks, and they talked about the bathrooms at Lynch Park and Dane Street Beach in Obeah. And so the bathrooms for me became kind of a rallying cry, because we have these amazing resources, these beautiful parks by the water, beaches, and for people to really enjoy them, you need to have, you know, up to standard sanitary bathroom facilities, and now we do. Now we do with a brand new bathhouse at Lynch, new structures inside at Dane Street, and a brand new bathhouse at Obeah. And so I feel very good about that. Also at Lynch, and this is entirely to the credit of Bruce Doig, our Director of Community Services. Bruce went after a grant that allowed us to build a new play structure and put the splash pad at Lynch Park. And that splash pad has been the biggest hit among families that I've seen in a long time.
And I might add that even though it's caused a little bit of people having to readjust their routes to work and to school, but there's been so much activity, especially this past summer with road work. And I know it's all for the best. People were complaining, but I think you've got quite a bit of road work done all throughout the city this summer, Mike.
We have. We've been able to put additional city money the last couple of years into it, and that's because at this moment we can afford to. And at a point that we can't, we'll scale it back a bit. But right now, last year and again this year, we're spending $3 million. That's it's 1.5 of state and 1.4 of city, or vice versa. It's about half and half. And so yes, there's a lot of road work going on. People have been great about it. It's not always easy. We're trying to coordinate the work. We've at times made our contractors start late enough that the school drop-offs and the people getting out to the highway happen, and we're trying to keep that in mind at all times. But boy, the roads and sidewalks need it, and we're finally able to pay some attention to it. But I do want to just touch on the fact that McEwen School is a city asset. It was built as an elementary school, and now with our middle school project about to really begin with the tear down of Memorial happening in January, McEwen has become the new home to our preschool program, which is federally and state mandated that we have a preschool program for our Chapter 766 special ed students. Right. So we run a program for Chapter 766 kids, as well as they're typically developing peers, and we've got 9 classrooms in here, as well as all of our central office staff, the superintendent, the special ed department, the business department, all of that. So all of the school operations are now being run out of McEwen, as well as the pre-K program.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mike. And so we'll head over to the McKay School here in a second, and please join us then. Well, welcome back, everybody. And Mike, we're here in front of the old McKay School, and looks like there's a lot of activity going on in back of us. Tell us what's happening here and what the public can expect.
Well, as you know, the city has tried to sell this for some time, and we were able to sell it last year, and it is being rebuilt now. The main part of the school being preserved, so it's a great historic preservation win. And then the gymnasium, which had a little less significance historically, was torn down, and they're adding a building in place of the gymnasium. 32 units of housing, 20 one-bedroom units, 12 two-bedroom units. It's a development that we worked extensively with the neighbors to get a sense of what was the appropriate scale for development here, what would really fit, and we were able to craft our RFP so that the city realizes meaningful revenues, and at the same time, it's a development that fits the neighborhood. Given that there's been a school there for 100 plus years. And the type of apartments that are going in there are going to bring very few, if any, children into the schools. So you look at a net impact, and it's really a positive impact financially, and it's a development that's being incredibly well done. Windover is the owner and are building the project.
Right. Yeah. Now, did you want to talk a little bit about the new middle school and what's happening to Memorial, Mike?
Absolutely, and I wanted to do it right here because the sale of this school is dedicated, the proceeds from this sale are dedicated to the middle school project. Okay. We received $900,000 for the purchase price here, and that money will all go to help pay for the middle school. The middle school is well on track. Our city council, first our Middle School Building Committee unanimously supported and has supported every step of the project. The City Council voted unanimously to fund the project. The state's Mass School Building Authority Board of Directors voted unanimously to fund our project, and everybody's excited. It's going to cost the city $60.8 million. It's going to cost in total $109 million, and the state's paying the balance. We are working along the way. We've worked hard and have saved money and time at every step for the last 2 years, and we're working hard to try to ensure that we save additional funds. So $60.8 million is our intention. That's the top. That's the high water mark. We're gonna save money as we move forward. We have hired a fantastic team, and the project manager, the architect, and the construction manager. They're all very accomplished. They have track records of delivering, on time and better, under budget and better. So everything is really teed up. Memorial is going to start coming down in January.
Okay.
I know some people have wanted us to keep Memorial, but we were required to look at about 12 different scenarios, and several of them involved renovation additions to Memorial. Each of the renovation addition options cost more than tearing the building down and building anew. Yeah. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but that's just the reality. Yeah. The building was built long enough ago, its systems are old enough, it doesn't conform to the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. A lot of reasons that it just wasn't going to work to save any part of Memorial. So it's totally new construction, grades 5 through 8. It'll be a school for 1,400 students. We're working daily on this project. As I said, we have a great team. Our middle school building committee meets regularly. They're meeting again next week for updates on traffic plans, site layout, design, all of those components to the project. So the building will start being torn down in January. By mid-spring, we'll be putting the substructure in, the pilings that have to go into the ground. By summer into fall, pouring the foundations, and then by next winter, erecting the structural steel, so people will start seeing something rise into the sky at that point. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of topics here so far, Mike.
Can I just touch on the financial piece?
Please
one
do.
More time?
Well,
the city has been planning for this middle school project for years. My predecessor, Bill Scanlon, worked incredibly hard to get us in the position financially, as well as to make sure that the middle school moved forward. We've been able to pick it up and bring it to this point. The city has, with some of Mayor Scanlon's work, some of our work, put over $5 million away in a rainy day fund. We've got another 2 fiscal years that we can do that before we have to start potentially tapping some of that money to help with the debt service. And we have very conservative estimates on the debt amount. So, we could well do better in interest rates, but we're pushing everything out there very conservatively to make sure that it's affordable. We also, as I said, will use this $900,000, and because the city made the decision last year that we're going to continue to deliver our own emergency call and dispatch, our 911 police, fire, and ambulance calls, money that would otherwise be going to the regional call center, some of the city's money will become available to use on this project as well. Yeah. So it's teed up. Our city's bond rating was just upgraded this year. Everything is really in line. We can afford the project. We've always been able to afford it. We're going to keep the costs down. We're going to deliver this school the city needs. And then after this school, then we'll look to our public safety needs. As everybody knows, we need a new police station and some attention to our fire stations. But any healthy organization or entity, or in this case a municipality with 150 miles of roads and municipal buildings and properties and assets, you need to invest. You issue debt, you pay off debt, you retire debt, you invest in your assets, and that's what we're doing here.
Well, thank you very much for that, Mike. And so I'll bring up my prior question. Anything else? We've talked about a lot. Anything else you want to mention, any specifics before we close?
Sure. Some real exciting things that I think are now in place that we've worked hard on, and no one person does any of this. A lot of people deserve credit. The Memorial Day remembrances and observances, which we moved to Monday last year, and we're able to kind of rejuvenate the downtown parade that's part of it, and that's now in place. And it's a great way to honor our living veterans and people who gave their lives for this country. Also, we put on a senior symposium this spring. Right. That was a way for seniors to get access to a lot of different resources and get a lot of questions answered and start a dialogue around what our seniors truly need. Our Council on Aging has secured some grant funding to do outreach to more seniors in their homes, because it's seniors who live in single family or multifamily dwellings,
Right.
as opposed to in senior congregate housing, who it can be harder to reach and get into the senior center or get into their homes with services they need. So we worked hard at that. We also, Beverly has long had a very vibrant park system and a lot of open space to enjoy, and we've taken real steps to improve our parks and to protect more space. We took all the land around Norwood Pond and we placed it in a permanent conservation restriction. We were able to purchase, again with state grant funding and some community preservation funding, we were able to purchase Camp Paradise,
Paradise, right.
the old Girl Scout camp off
Right.
of Cole Street and Foster Street.
Right.
And that now is being managed and operated by the rec department. We're bringing rec classes there and programs. We're going to bring our school children in there to really benefit from that asset. So there's a lot of good going on for sure.
Well, I can certainly say that I think the citizens of Beverly are getting a bang for their buck, for their tax dollars with everything that's happening here. Well, I'd like to thank our viewers for joining us on this whirlwind tour with Mayor Mike Cahill. And I'd like to remind them that they have been watching City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Walt.